We are facing a government shutdown, and there will be devastating consequences if that happens. But Lauren Boebert is focused on attacking working families instead. My name is Brittany Page, and this is the Page Perspective. This is normally where I tell you to be sure to subscribe to the channel, that you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Threads at Brittany E. Page, that you can subscribe to my Substack for free. And I guess I'm still saying those things, but just spending less time on it because the government shutdown is serious. Millions of federal employees working without pay. Preschool programs could be temporarily unavailable, limited workplace safety inspections, limited food and water safety inspections. The list goes on and on. We're facing this shutdown because Republicans are demanding spending cuts, and you know where this is headed because those cuts are never aimed at the right people. According to reporting from the Washington Post, these are the priorities for Republicans in the House. Quote, cutting housing subsidies for the poor by 33% as soaring rents drive a national affordability crisis, forcing more than 1 million women and children onto the waitlist of a nutritional assistance program for poor mothers with young children, reducing federal spending on home heating assistance for low-income families by more than 70%, with energy prices high heading into winter months. Ah, yes, throwing our most vulnerable into housing or food insecurity. Fantastic priorities. And Lauren Boebert decided to wade into this fight during the House debate on the fiscal year 2024 agriculture and FDA spending bill, where House members debated funding for things like nutrition assistance programs for women, infants, and children, or WIC. But I want you to listen to Lauren Boebert because according to her, this is the last thing Americans need.
The last thing Americans need are higher prices, fewer jobs, and the largest expansion of our welfare state in a lifetime. The Biden-Harris administration expansion of the welfare state abolishes work ethic and promotes a new generation of government dependency. I've lived under government dependency, and I'm thankful that I have broke free of that cycle, given my life experiences and developing work ethic. I am one of the few who are able to break free of that cycle of dependency.
So first, they always throw in the higher prices and fewer jobs line when discussing things like funding nutrition assistance programs for babies, as though feeding babies is going to send us into some sort of economic catastrophe. But we've seen this before. It's always panic over expanding the welfare state, a panic we don't ever hear when discussing the cost of tax cuts for the rich or the cost of the $800 billion annual budget for defense. What's unique about Lauren Boebert, though, is that she's open about having used government assistance. And according to her bio, which has been inconsistent over time and difficult, I guess, really to know what's true and what isn't, she was a teen mom, worked at McDonald's, dropped out of high school, got her GED. She talks about how she thinks more people like her should be in Congress because her background gives her a unique perspective. It sure does, but I think it's the wrong perspective. And it also shows the limitations of relying on anecdotes as evidence for our positions. You see, Lauren Boebert can stand there and say she's lived through government dependency and she's one of the few who broke free and this is why she opposes government assistance. But I can sit here and say I've also lived on government assistance and I've also been able to break free of that cycle. And I believe in a healthy, robust safety net because, well, I'm not trying to pull the ladder up behind me. And then we're just stuck here in a tragedy off, maintaining that our position is true because of our life experiences. But we rely on those anecdotes, those personal stories, because they're particularly convincing. Like I said, I can sit here and list my personal experiences with government assistance, from food stamps to Pell Grants to Medicaid. You know, unlike Lauren, I did graduate high school. I went to community college, then a 4-year university, and then graduate school. But my parents didn't. Neither graduated high school, and my dad got his GED in prison the same year that I graduated high school. So I know a lot about these cycles that Lauren speaks of and the work that it takes to break them, not just in my personal life, but also in my career as a therapist. I've had the privilege of walking alongside countless people doing the work to recognize cycles, stop them, change them. And the only lesson that has come out of this is that it's hard to do. And your ability to change it comes down to a few things, mostly luck, but also the support you have along the way. Lauren tells a neat little story. She got some help from the government and it was on her way, never to need it again. It's one that centers her abilities, that there's something unique about her, rugged individualism, despite the admission, of course, that she relied on other people. Everyone can do it because I did, but we don't know the other benefits that she received, how she was able to start her small business, for example, who has supported her emotionally, physically, financially along the way to get her to where she is now. I can't imagine telling someone a surface level version of my story and saying to them, I did it, so can you. Especially when I'm not willing to support the programs that actually helped me to get where I am today. But this is why we need data, research, evidence to break us out of the dead-end anecdote exchange. We can't build our world around Lauren's experience, and we can't build it around mine. We should, as much as possible, work to base it on evidence. And that evidence tells us that government assistance is good and necessary for helping people meet their needs. She highlights her work ethic as though having a work ethic is at odds with government benefits. First, there are already limits to participation in programs like food stamps depending on employment. For example, for childless adults, if you're not employed at least half time, you can only receive benefits for 3 months out of every 3 years. And what we know to be true is that most people, 2/3 of those who receive food stamps, also known as SNAP, are children, elderly, or people with disabilities who don't work. Outside of that, you have working people who use food stamps to supplement low wages or periods in between jobs. Turning to the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, where they analyzed the relationship between food stamp recipients and work. SNAP participation among non-disabled adults is often short-term, but those who receive SNAP for longer periods still work most of the time. Nearly 2/3, 64% of the adults who participated in SNAP at some point over the roughly 3.5-year period that this part of our analysis examined, received it for a total of less than 2 years. Regardless of how long these adults participated in SNAP, however, they worked in the majority of months in which they received SNAP assistance. Over 1/3 of non-disabled adults worked in every month that they participated in SNAP. Interesting. So it sounds like work ethic isn't the problem, Lauren. It sounds like welfare doesn't lead to a cycle of dependency, and rather that people turn to programs like food stamps when they need it, stay on it for as long as they need it, even while working much of the time, and then they go off the benefits. Okay. But maybe you're saying, but that's just one source. Well, let's look at the census and data from the American Community Survey, where they found about 1/3 of families who received SNAP benefits had 2 or more people working in the household. More than 3/4 of those families had at least one worker, and about 1/3 included 2 or more workers, a clear indication that many families that rely on nutritional assistance worked. So now you may be asking, why are people who are working turning to government programs for financial assistance? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. Reading again from the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities, millions of workers are in jobs that provide low pay, can have shifting schedules, and often lack key benefits such as paid sick leave. These features can contribute to income volatility and job turnover. Low-wage workers, including many who participate in SNAP, are more likely than other workers to experience periods when they are out of work or when their monthly earnings drop, at least temporarily. These dynamics lead many adults to participate in SNAP temporarily, often while between jobs or when their work hours are cut. SNAP's dual function is both a short-term support to help families afford food during a temporary period of low income, and a support for others with longer-term needs is one of its principal strengths. Now, this gets to the heart of what Lauren is missing. Benefit programs need to be well funded because people go through difficult times, especially in a country where people are expected to work low-wage jobs without paid sick leave or paid parental leave, without access to affordable health care, access to affordable child care, and endless attacks on one's ability to control their own reproduction. These things make working consistent hours difficult, which in turn makes it difficult to cover essentials like food for your family. The myths surrounding dependence on government assistance are just that. They're myths. Lauren isn't one of the few who were able to break free. Millions of people rely on these programs and then go on to continue their lives, hoping they don't need them again. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but it should be available to them because we never know what the future holds. And we should all be aware of how our own stories might interfere with our ability to understand another's and try to refrain from using our own survival as a blueprint to give to others, especially if we're failing to account for our luck. Here's to hoping, Lauren. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call 657-464-7609 or send an email to idoubtit@dollemore.com. You can support my work on Patreon at patreon.com/idoubtitpodcast. We do monthly bonus episodes over there and have recently done some really great interviews. So be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. But don't forget to subscribe here. And remember that I link to all of my sources in the description, always. And I appreciate you. I thank you so much for joining me. As always, I will see you next time.